What's cracking, everybody? Zerfel Rose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be talking about this team that I played in the Open Ultra League featuring Shadow, Alolan, Ninetales. Now, look at the IV spread. No, they're not perfect. They're not ideal. I literally built the only one that I could get that went into the Ultra League without being too terrible, right? So, you guys probably saw these battles on Home Slice Henry's channel already, so appreciate you coming in here even though you've already seen them. This is going to be more of an instructional sort of how I play the team or how I've managed in the battles in this particular video. So let's hop straight into the games, because if you need an introduction, I'll kind of go through it. So we got Shadow, Little Ninetales. I'm running Powder Snow on this one, and this is why. I much prefer having like ice type damage and energy management ability rather than having the charm. I just don't like charm. I don't like it. I don't. I prefer to have the energy management. My opponent's staying with Pidgeot. This kind of like screams to me that they're also weak in the back to Ninetales. Probably means that, especially after swapping in their Cobalion, they've got maybe Virizion in the back as a very common pairing. So I build up a bunch of energy because I know they're not going to get to a Stone Edge before I can build up to the Gleam, and then I'm just going to swap out. And I'm going to come in with my Giratina. I'm a little bit behind on energy, but I'm making sure that I'm throwing with good timing. Now, Giratina, by the way, I know that Shadow Sneak is a bad move, and in hindsight, I actually wish that I had run Shadow Force on it. So if you're feeling like spice and you have a Shadow Force Giratina, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to trying it here. But this is, you're going to notice in this video and most other ones that I do, that whenever I'm throwing energy, it's usually with timing. And I always mention that timing thing, right? So when you're talking about throwing these Shadow Claws into a 3-turn move, right? This is basically 2 versus 3 turns. You're going to be throwing on 1, 4, 7 of your own, or you could count your opponents too. You could be like, 1, 3, 5, and count on their odd move during that odd move. So that's another way to do it. But I make sure by doing this though, especially because they threw early. Now I spent a shield there because I thought that they actually may have gotten to a Stone Edge and I wasn't paying attention, so I shielded it like an idiot. But it was just a Sacred Sword, so I knew that I could let the next one go because they definitely weren't at that Stone Edge, and that lets me come out with a full farm down, and I can take out the Pidgeot, and now the entire rest of my team beats Virizion, so I just need to be careful about how I do it. Essentially, I could go for a Dazzling Gleam here, but I just decided to play it safe. I'm going to come with my Cofagrigus because I know that there's really not much they can do, and at the point of Cofagrigus potentially going down to these Leaf Blades, if it even does in the first place, Ninetales wins CMP and just comes in with a Weather Ball and claps the Virizion anyway. So this is a good game right here. Thankfully, the way that this goes, like I took inspiration from my, not my team, a team that was given to me and featured on this channel several times in Great League, Alolan Ninetales Double Ghost. Thanks to Big C Dizzle for that team originally. Credits to him for that. Except his rain charm. This one's running Powder Snow. But Alolan Ninetales scores very well with the Ghosts, so I just figured I'd throw a couple of the strongest Ghosts that I knew of in the back and just kind of see how it went. Hit the button. Goodness. And that's where the Cofagrigus came in. It's just something that I'm familiar with. I like Cofagrigus. I don't really get to use it very often, and I have it built, so figure might as well. So my opponent comes with a Steelix here, and that's actually kind of bad news for me. The reason why is because it usually has access to Crunch, and it has Dragon Tail, so it's always doing super effective damage. So I essentially expect to lose this matchup, but the nice thing is because it has that moveset, my Ninetales is basically walling it because the Dragon Tails do nothing. And my opponent throws energy. I'm expecting it to be crunchier, but they actually have Earthquake, which is not great, but like the Earthquake doesn't even do that much. So I'm continuing to farm up with a little extra energy. I know that I don't really necessarily need it, but it's allowing me to get as much damage in as possible in the window that I have. I'd rather get that extra Shadow Claw in, even though I don't necessarily need it, because it's giving me a little extra damage, making Ninetales farm down a little bit easier. And I fully expect to come out of this. Now, the fact that they threw Psychic Fangs like that, I was prepared to take an Earthquake there. But the fact that they keep throwing Psychic Fangs is fine because I'm still double resisting their fast move, and I'm just going to go for a full farm down. I don't mind. It's fine. You probably noticed the congested sound. I'm getting sick, so woe is me, right? So Ninetales comes out. My opponent Steelix has decimated 2/3 of my team, but Cresselia is going to have to tank this Dazzling Gleam, and now Cofagrigus is going to come in and see what's in the back, and Cofagrigus is going to be met by Nothing, because they're not swapping out yet. So I'm thinking that they might not have a solid answer to my Cofagrigus in the back. But they wanted to stay in and get the future sight off. So I'm down a shield, but I have a ton of energy. So I'm going to go straight Shadow Ball here. For me, there's no reason for me to bait in this particular scenario, because if I bait and I don't get that shield, then that's like no damage done to the Tapu Fini. So I would rather risk the extra Shadow Claw and go for the Shadow Ball just to guarantee that I get this damage off. And now the Tapu Fini is so low that all I have to do is throw 2 Weather Balls at it if my Cofagrigus goes down. So I'm fine here. And my opponent goes for the back-to-back Surfs. I'm shielding 1 up. And at this point, what I need to do here is I'm going to try and farm down. I figured they just threw back-to-back. That means that they need to take another 7 more Shadow Claws worth of Water Guns, so that's 14 Water Guns, to get to another Surf. And if I can get to my farm down or throw before then, I'm good. So my opponent goes down, and I cat back-to-back Dark Pulses. The Tapu Fini goes down, thankfully, because of my counting. And the Dark Pulses come through, and I just go for the Weather Ball combo play here, and that's going to wrap this game up real nicely. Shadow Alolan Ninetales is just such an absolute menace. Just that Shadow boost really does so much for it, given the fact that it already has a pretty good amount of bulk plus the moveset. Now, this lead is miserable. Normally I safe swap Giratina, but that all changes when it comes to this. So what I do here is I go for the Dazzling Gleam right off the bat. I don't mess around, I don't overfarm, I just go straight for it. And if my opponent stays in, if they shield it, which they don't, which, you know what, that warrants the button. It's gonna a lot of damage. If they don't shield it, that's fine. They bait me here. I'm still shielding a potential Earthquake, but I'm going to farm up to their Earthquake, and now I'm going to swap and catch the Earthquake on my Cofagrigus. Reason why is because if they do throw another bait at me, I am not going to want to take that damage on my my Giratina. So I've got a ton of energy on my Giratina here. I'm going to go for Dark Pulse because it's going to do enough, and if my opponent tries to get greedy and overfarm, I'll get to the Dark Pulse again. So they basically have to throw here, and they do. Which means that Ninetales is going to come in and absolutely just go nuts, because it has the Gleam loaded almost. Or no, it doesn't. But my opponent safe swaps into Registeel here. So I need to burn my Switch Clock because it is a little bit desynced. And that was my fault for not paying attention to it as I should have been. But now I'm going to come in with my Giratina. I know that this isn't a great matchup, but I'd much rather have my Giratina whittle down the Registeel, and I do get the attack drop, which means that this matchup is now flipped in the Registeel's favor. But I'm not really here to win the matchup with Registeel so much as I am to put it down into low HP so that I can just get it with Ninetales. I'm saving my shield for Ninetales at this point. My opponent has a Giratina that is within range of absolutely being clapped by a Dazzling Gleam, and they decide to swap in. Now, I did notice that the Switch Clock was starting to get back to the point where they can swap again, so that's why I overfarmed instead of throwing more energy. And what I'm doing now is, because I've banked all that energy, right, I threw 2 moves, and that allowed me to burn the Switch Clock some more. And then that means I can now come in with my Ninetales and align it, and now I have the ability to save that shield for my Giratina to finish off the Registeel. So it did change my win condition a little bit there, but that basically was just me making sure that I had enough energy when I expected them to swap, right? I anticipated they were going to swap, so I wanted to make sure that I had enough energy to throw a move or 2 in order to burn the Switch Clock so that I could then in turn swap and get in on their Pokemon. But Ninetales, even though it's Shadow, survives the Focus Blast and gets off the Weather Ball, and that puts Giratina in range to take it out, and that's a good game. So we have another bad Walrein lead, and we're going to play it the exact same way. Again, that's consistency, right? If I find something that works, I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to play it the same way every time until it stops working. Now my opponent comes in with a Cresselia to absorb the Dazzling Gleam. Not great for me, no, but still does a fair amount of damage, and I can come in with my Giratina with this much of a health differential. I don't even care if they end up throwing a Moonblast at me. Right now what I'm doing is I'm basically providing myself an opportunity to keep my Giratina away from their Walrein, especially with that much energy, and the Cofagrigus is going to have a much better time dealing with the Walrein than my Ninetales or Giratina would, so I'm hoping to get that alignment later on. Now, I do have to let this go. I do know that a Moonblast from here will not KO based on how much it did earlier. So Moonblast almost takes me out, but I'm going to be able to get a move off against the Walrein as it comes back in. Probably should have gone for Shadow Sneak. I think Shadow Sneak actually does slightly more damage in 1 hit, but I was hoping I might get to 2. Oh well. That's where Shadow Force would have come in handy. Would have almost one-shot it. I don't think I had enough energy for it anyway, it doesn't matter. I shield up a potential Earthquake here. My opponent, I don't think, built up to it, or I'm just not going to bother shielding again. If they throw it, then they throw it. But they throw another Icicle Spear, so I'm going to go for the Dark Pulse. And I'm hoping that my opponent maybe doesn't shield this, or if they do, at least they're shielding the less costly move. So we're even shields now. And my opponent's still throwing energy, as they should. And they're going to keep going for Icicle Spears. So I'm just going to come in now with my Ninetales. They come in with a Shadow Machamp, and I'm like, oh no. Okay, this could go either really good or really bad. So I shield this up, because I'm like, okay, worst case, I'm going to go for a Gleam here. I'm going to go for a couple Weather Balls. And I go for the Weather Balls, hoping that my Cofagrigus might be able to farm down afterwards. And it is a good shield. This is a situation where the bait actually paid off. The Weather Ball goes through. They're going to be able to farm me down and get to a Rock Slide, unfortunately, before I'm able to farm them down. So, well played to my opponent. They did have every out to this team on their available roster, so just nothing I could do. But we made it close, and I think that was fine as well. So, well played to them. Is definitely very well played. Charizard. This is one of the matchups that the Shadow flips, and I love it. So, my opponent is going to find out that even though they're going to double bait in this matchup, it's not going to win it for him. If they tank just one Weather Ball, they are now going to lose the 2 shields just by getting farmed down by my Ninetales. I'm still going to throw a Weather Ball here and there just to try and get a shield off of them. And, I mean, in hindsight, yeah, if I had tried to call a bait, that would have been even better for me, but I'm not going to mess around with that because I'd rather not have a chance for this Charizard to get rolling against my Giratina or my Cofagrigus, so I'm just going to get this thing out of here with the Ninetales. But look, they can't get to another move, so they're forced to swap out, which now means that my Ninetales is going to be able to farm up a ton of energy, and I'm going to come in with my Cofagrigus after having all that energy banked, and I'm just going to start lobbing moves at this thing. So now we're going to go for a Shadow Ball, I do believe. I want to either burn the last shield, or I want to force them to lose a lot of HP off their Cresselia. And after this, I'm hoping that whatever they have in the back maybe is not friendly to Giratina. At least Giratina hopefully beats it, is what I meant there. So they're going to go for their Moonblast, and Moonblast really doesn't do a whole lot. I'm going to try to farm down here, but if I have to, I will throw the Dark Pulse on the CMP, which I do here, just to prevent them from getting any extra energy. We get there. So thankfully there's that, but now my opponent has to bring in this Trevenant, which is going to farm me down, unfortunately. They can't bring in their Charizard because it's so low, doesn't have any energy, and they're just going to get farmed down. So I'm going to come up with my Ninetales and go for back-to-back Weather Balls here. I don't know if that was a CMP. I think it was. That or the fast moves aren't registering from my opponent. I don't know what's going on there. There's no situation here where there should have been no moves. So I think that I just didn't see them because now I believe they're at a Shadow Ball here, which I think they were only at like 5 when we swapped in. And my opponent's just going to get... oh, no, they did have energy for the Dragon Claw, but they wouldn't have had enough for a Blast Burn, essentially. So Dragon Claw does a little bit of chip damage here, but not going to be enough to take out my Giratina, and I'm going to be able to get this move off against them. Could have gone for Shadow Sneak for a guaranteed extra damage, but it was low enough. I think it was fine. So well played to my opponent. Just Shadow Ninetales just shreds Charizard now. It's great. So another Walrein lead, not exactly great, but I'm still going to play it out the same way. I'm still going to go for the Gleam because it's a non-Shadow purified Walrein even. They're more likely to probably just tank this, which hopefully makes it easier for my backline. I'm still going to shield an Earthquake here. I am still a Shadow Ninetales. I do have to be careful of that Earthquake damage. But once again, since they bait me, and maybe I should just start calling the baits here. But once they get up to what would be an Earthquake, I will catch, and they do see that coming, and they decide not to swap. Now, because I have enough energy left over here, I'm going to be able to outpace this Trevenant to the first move, because they're not going to throw until they get to the Seed Bomb, or get to the Shadow Ball. And they're probably going to throw a Seed Bomb at me, is what it is. I probably should just let this go. But I shield it. Hopefully they go for Shadow Ball, and they do. So I'm going to farm up a little bit extra, but I get too greedy. But I'm like, this is only a Seed Bomb. There's no way that this is actually a Shadow Ball. So my opponent going for some chip damage here, but I'm going to be able to get now up to 2 Dark Pulses before going down because of it. So after my opponent comes back in with their Walrein, most likely, I'll still be able to go for a move. It looks like we CMP, and I think that Cofagrigus wins the CMP here. So going to be able to take out this like maybe 25% of the Walrein's HP, and it wasn't a CMP, so I might have been able to go for one more and go for that Shadow Ball, which I probably should have, but I decide now, because the Walrein is loaded, I'm just going to come in with my Giratina and absorb the energy. I know it's not ideal to throw, eat Icicle Spears, but then I try to catch an Icicle Spear, and that went terribly wrong, so they're going to hit me with an Earthquake, and that hurts. And now I'm going to try and go for the Dazzling Gleam, and they catch it on a Moltres. Oh, everything is going wrong for me in this game right now. And they're going to be able to farm me down, and I'm basically done here. My opponent doesn't get to a move, though, thankfully, so I will be able to get this Dragon Claw off. And now it's just going to be a race to whoever gets to the next charge move, because I'm pretty sure none of that Walrein's going to get there. Never mind. But I can survive an Icicle Spear, so I'm hoping if I go for the Shadow Sneak, it's going to be just enough, maybe. Icicle Spear is going to almost KO me, and this is going to be too close for comfort. I probably could have gone for Dragon Claw, and then it would have been enough. Maybe I could have gotten to another Dragon Claw, but they had two moves, so it doesn't matter in the end. So, really well played to my opponent. The Moltres was an amazing spice pick that I actually really like. I just don't have the balls to build one myself right now, but it's really fun from what I've seen. So, Virizion, love this lead. I beat this thing all the way through the entirety of my team. So they have no safe place for their Virizion, so because they safe swap in a Walrein, I'm going to go for the Gleam, because I can for free now. And then I'm going to swap in my Cofagrigus to counter swap here. After hoping to catch the Earthquake, but they do throw energy, and I think it's just an Icicle Spear. They did wait patiently, which is well done to them. But nope, it was an Earthquake, so they did throw the Earthquake to get the damage off, and I'm going to go straight for Shadow Ball. My opponent does go for an Icicle Spear here. And what I'm hoping at this point is that whatever they've got in the back is not going to be as disruptive to the rest of my team as a Walrein. Like, Walrein is one of the things, like the only things that kind of ABA beats this team. There's a few, right? But there's not very many, at least not many that are played. So I'm going to shield this up because I have the shield advantage, and I'm going to try and go for a Dark Pulse here, but I get really greedy with my energy and miscount, and I suffer for it. So I'm just going to let it go. And then I'm going to come with my Ninetales. I'm going to farm here. And I'm going to get up to what would be almost an Earthquake for them, and then throw the Weather Ball to KO the Walrein, and hopefully then not shield. If they do shield, then I could shield back in kind, and then easily just let it happen. So they come in now with a Muck. Cancel Muck, mind you. And if it was a Alolan Muck, I'd be crying, because that would basically core break my team. And so thankfully they stay in. They're going to throw a Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse, honestly, from Kenzo Muck doesn't do a whole lot of damage. So, like, it does enough, but it doesn't do so much. And I'm actually over farming on energy, expecting them to swap into that Virizion, but they decide to stay in, so I'm going to keep going for Dragon Claws now that they've committed to staying in on this matchup. And I'm going to take out most of their Kanto Muck. And if they want to throw another move, that's great. But they decide now to swap, so they're going to have to go for Stone Edges here. If they have Leaf Blade or Sacred Sword, they're both resistant. So my opponent's going to go for Leaf Blades. They're going to need a couple more to KO. So with good timing, I'm going to throw one fast move, then go for my Dragon Claw. And I'm probably going to do the same thing for the next few move cycles if I were to stay in. But instead, I come in aggressively with my Ninetales, shield this up because I don't want to get KO'd, because all I really need at this point is 2 Weather Balls and I'm done. So I'm going to go for one move, then the Weather Ball, get a little bit of energy, and then throw the move before they can do anything about it. And then since Ninetales wins the CMP, I should be able to get to this Weather Ball before they can get their move off. And thankfully we do CMP just as I expected. I win CMP and take out Virizion, and then one Powder Snow takes out the Muck, and that is a good game. Very well played to my opponent. Got another game here against the Gliscor lead. I couldn't ask for a better lead, honestly. I need to keep this alignment, though, because of the fact that it has Night Slash. So instead of the usual, I will come in immediately with my Cofagrigus here. I'm not going to waste time on the Gliscor because I need to keep the alignment, and I don't want to give my opponent misaligned switch clocks for that reason. So that's why I play it differently in this case. Now, my opponent needs to fight for switch here, but because they took that first Shadow Ball, now I can just go straight Dark Pulse and get to my moves a little bit quicker. And because they built up to what I believe is an Earthquake, I will shield it. And thankfully, I shield the Earthquake correctly. My opponent's in a really bad spot here. They're basically going to have to go down 2 shields in order to take this matchup from me, which I don't even know if they'd be able to. And they just decide to let it go. So I'm going to go for a little bit of an overfarm against the Gliscor right before they would get to the Night Slash. I'm going to throw my Shadow Ball. My opponent shields the Shadow Ball, but I've got alignment here, so I'm really in a good position. Now I go for the Dark Pulse here. I should have just gone for Shadow Ball. It's when it comes to Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, I'm always like, am I going to get to this or not? So thankfully they decide to double shield. Ninetales is going to come back in, and they have a ton of energy, so I have to be careful of an Earthquake. If they hit me with an Earthquake, I'm kind of done here. So I'm just going to say, you know what, the only way I will lose this is if I tank the Earthquake, and if I tank the Earthquake, I lose anyway. But I say I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to call this bait, because I feel like maybe they're going to go for a Night Slash, and they keep going for Night Slash now. So they also come in with a Giratina, with Dragon Breath. Unfortunately for this trainer, Ninetales completely core breaks this Gliscor Giratina and just absolutely shreds with a Dazzling Gleam. Almost one-shots the Giratina, but they have Ancient Power, which is a real big problem, but they've also got Gliscor with a move loaded. Does the Night Slash KO? Yeah, it KOs. It's too much, but I'm going to be able to get to the Dragon Claw before my opponent can get to enough damage to KO me. That's going to be a good game. Very well played. Giratina just coming in being too thick. Anyway, last game of the video here. Umbreon lead. Again, just like the Gliscor, got to keep this alignment. My opponent comes in with a Cresselia, so I'm going to immediately respond with Cofagrigus, and that's going to allow me to take the game. Because my opponent's like, nah, I'm good. Oh, I must have forgot to take out the Q times in this one. That's awkward. So yeah, just, I guess, hard countered my opponent from back to front, and I guess they just don't want to play the game out. So anyway, while we have to wait for the queue times, I guess we'll plug the old Metafy Patreon. So this is a team that was in my Patreon server, and those of us who were able to get the Ninetales played it and absolutely crushed it. So speaking of crushing, here's a Pidgeot. So between this and Love Cup, which you're going to see a really banging video on Love Cup tomorrow in the video, and then just in general, we're going to be, you know, it's a great community. Go ahead and, you know, hit me up in the link in Patreon down in the description if you're looking to join an awesome community that is thriving and is looking to always improve each other together, as well as you know, as a whole as a server. So there's also coaching on Metafy as well. If you want to hit the link on Metafy, if you're looking to improve your game or get to that next level, get up to Ace, Veteran, Expert, Legend, whatever you are looking to get that goal, I can definitely help you get there. Just go ahead and click the description and then go to Metafy, and then you can take a look at anything that's on my page, essentially, and we can get you going there. So in this last game, it's going to be another Pidgeot Cobalion core. We core break with the Ninetales, most likely because they come in with Cobalion. My Ninetales actually needs to farm down here because I lose Switch like a fool. My opponent has one shield left, and I'm going to hit him with this Gleam, and you know what's not going to happen? They're not going to shield. They're calling the Weather Ball bait. Absolutely collapse the Machamp, and that's going to be a last game there. Oh, you didn't see that one on Home Slice Henry's channel. That was an exclusive Felrose surprise there. Going for back-to-back 4-1s with this team in Open Ultra League. Absolutely monstrous performance from Shadow Alolan Ninetales, and I'm really sorry for those of you who weren't able to get one. This event was not kind to a lot of people. I got very lucky, and even then, as you can see, the IVs were not very, very great. I just picked whatever I could. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video, and let me know in the comments how your Ultra League, how your season's going. Hopefully you're doing a lot better than you know, some people I've known are not doing too great this season. So I'm really hoping that everybody's starting to get up at the end of the season here. I know we had Go Battle Day yesterday, so hopefully y'all were able to get some gains. And you know, as always, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.